É um setor que não para de crescer mesmo durante crises econômicas. Esse ano, 3,6 trilhões de dólares vão ser gastos com tecnologia de informação no mundo inteiro. A quantidade de dados sendo gerados é monumental e não existem soluções definitivas para organizar, proteger e, mais importante, analisar toda essa informação. Aqui na Gartner, uma das empresas mais respeitadas em estratégias de informação e tecnologia, nenhuma das promessas ou desafios do Big Data escapam ao radar de Peter Sondergaard, diretor mundial de pesquisas. Segundo ele, a realidade digital pode não estar bem definida no momento, mas as perspectivas são muito positivas. Since there is no official definition for Big Data, what is yours?
Big data is an amalgamation of both the actual data, the technologies needed to store and analyze that data, and then it is about the people, the skills needed to actually manage that data. So in many instances, big data is too broad a term because it isn't something that becomes tangible for an individual organization or a person. You have to go to further depth.
I don't want to say it sneaked up on us, but it kind of came by, the ubiquity of it. All of a sudden was there, right?
Yes.
When? What happened?
It is a combination of, frankly, what we call the nexus of forces. So it is a combination of the maturity of cloud, the maturity of mobile, the maturity of social environments, and then the maturity of the technology that supports data. That came together almost as a combined force.
Well, what are the biggest challenges? Security, the capacity of analyzing it, the people to analyze it. How do you see it? How do you see this tree?
First, I think it's actually important to establish that the cost of collecting data is nearing zero. Whereas the combined value and cost of analyzing the data is growing, in some instances exponential. It isn't until we start to do analysis of the data, provide some kind of combined value of multiple data points, that data has value. So therefore, it is the software and the tools that allow us to analyze this data. Because of the extensive nature of data, the human brain can actually figure out what data point has value and what doesn't have value. So data science skills, analytic skills are incredibly important. They have no value unless you have the software tools, so the analytic tools, and create the algorithms to really turn the data into value.
Which one is the weak link? The technology to analyze or the human factor?
The human factor. The technology is evolving. Technology is not perfect, and it needs humans to create the interpretive layer that turns these individual points of data that have no value into value. But the human aspect of it is the weakness simply because we don't have sufficient skills.
Explain the possibilities of this set of instructions that we call algorithms, and what can they do?
Algorithms is absolutely fascinating. Algorithms will be embedded in products, our cars, products that we buy for the home. The home itself will rest on an algorithm that actually turns the home into value. We ourselves will carry around an algorithm that defines us. That is really the evolution that we're seeing in the Android interface with what Google is doing on cognitive technologies, or Microsoft's Cortana. So algorithms will define us, but they will also define everything that is in products. General Electric uses this concept, which I think is great, of a digital twin for all physical products.
Digital twin.
A digital twin. An airline engine is a physical product, but it will have a complete mirrored digital software twin that uses the data from the physical product to mirror what could have. So it's stress testing the actual product. That's why Google is looking at self-driving cars. They're not going to manufacture cars. They're producing the digital twin of the physical car. We have to sort of look at things differently because the physical and the virtual merges. Robots will create news. There will be obviously software algorithms that aggregate news. There will be news that is created by the aggregation of social networks, which media companies are already working significantly on in terms of user-generated content. But the combination of cars and where they are is probably the best source of traffic information that is provided in the news every day. It isn't actually a single helicopter flying over a city trying to find out what's happening.
Are you retiring me?
I am not retiring you. I am actually saying that your value add gets augmented in some ways to be the interpreter of many more sources, and technology will help you.
The Internet of Things, is it the promise that we think it is?
I think instead what is going to happen is the Internet of Things will focus on optimizing cost in businesses. It is about optimizing your maintenance budget. It is about optimizing the cost of collecting data, as opposed to immediately turning out to be something that creates new businesses and new business models. That will come. The next 3 to 4 years are really defined by the Internet of Things helping bring down cost in organizations. So cost first, then revenue, and then augmentation of human experience as being the next thing.
The concept of business moments, I would like to know more about it. How do you define it?
Business moments are transient opportunities that occur at any given time when technology and human beings intersect. It's man and machine, it's man and man, and it will be machine and machine. Each of these create moments of opportunity for business opportunity, for service opportunity.
How do you explore a business moment? How do you monetize? Can you?
Yes, I think you can. Traditional approaches to developing a new way of servicing a customer or a client or a new product has been to go out and ask people what they want. That way is dead. And the reason it is dead is the fast evolution of technology means that people don't know what they want. Instead, what organizations should do is to watch what people do. The best companies, the best startups have a culture of watching what the customer or potential customer does. And out of that, you will see the business moment. You will see that when somebody gets into a car, they may do certain things immediately when they get into a car. That is a business moment, the instant that your car and your phone sync up. What do people do first?
The company as a platform. How does that apply to a communication company, a network producing content?
So the company becomes a platform, and software defines what the company is, and there cannot be the traditional separation between the content development, user-generated content, and the internal software platforms that run the media company. It has to be an integrated platform. Now, we've not done that in the past, not because we didn't want to. Technology wasn't sufficiently advanced. Now it is becoming sufficiently advanced, and strategic differentiation is actually about how well you do this.
Established media, as we are, has things to learn from social media.
Absolutely. But I also do believe that actually media has absorbed that really well. So I would say that would not be news for anyone. But what I would rather say is look at companies that are startups that have started to do things differently. I'll give you one example that is completely outside your industry, but is an established company that I think is thinking differently. Disney and Disney parks. The traditional world of Disney parks is the experience happens when you go on the ride. Right? Now, with the bands that Disney have, they're making that easier. But actually, I think the most fascinating thing that they're doing is they're standing and watching what people do in the line before the ride. And if you ever get to any amusement park, you will see that what most people do is they stand with their mobile phone, and they're doing stuff on the mobile phone because that's how they pass time. Disney is going to move the experience of the ride to the phone. So it actually starts on the phone because they've said, let's actually re-engineer the whole thought process of saying a line is a bad thing. We need to reduce it because that will never happen. And instead say, the line is a good thing. Let's start the ride on people's phones.
We know how to do our product. We have the millions that know that we know how to do our product. Yes. How well positioned are we in relation to this new universe of big data?
I think, frankly, you are well positioned and you understand this really well. So it's not a question of understanding it, are you structured correctly to act? Do you have the right leaders in an organization and the right skills in an organization to act? And have you set the right objectives and measure the desirable outcomes correctly? That is the challenge of all organizations.
How do you gauge that?
I think you first, therefore, have to do a piece of strategic work that says, let's look at what customers do and let's create a value proposition that starts from the business moment and move in towards what technology can do for that, and then ultimately how that defines the way we work and the way we are organized. Once you've done that, you may actually end up with two structures that have to coexist because you can't re-engineer a company fully in a short period of time.
Dangers, pitfalls?
What I often say is the antibodies of the big established will eat the new activity. And the reason is very much on the basis that leaders operate with the traditional mindset and are, for example, perhaps measured on next quarter's financial results. In a digital transformation, you have to sometimes assume that change takes a little longer. And so the danger is really that the established eats the new digital business moment focused startup.
When you study a company, what jumps as this is not looking good in terms of the universe of big data at the moment, and what jumps as this is promising?
I always start with the chief executive officer of the company. If the chief executive officer can answer a few simple questions, the nature of that answer will determine how successful they are. First, who owns the coordination of data in your organization? And I used carefully the word coordination. If the answer is, I don't know, then that would be the first red flag. The second is, who owns the vision and the digital strategy of the company? If the answer isn't me, but it's somebody else, that's a red flag. Third is that have you tasked your HR organization with a review of the skills that you are bringing into the organization? If the answer is no, that's a red flag.
What did I forget to ask you about data, big data, IT, that you would like to point out?
I would say there is the question of our legacy installed base. So we need to accept something that I think is important, that it is not about us getting more money to do this. It is about accepting that we have to change what we do with our installed base of technology and are installed base then therefore also of processes.